Hi, I'm Jeremy Watson, CEO of Bedrock Investment Property. Today I wanted to take a quick 2 or 3 minutes to walk you through the paradigm of how passive real estate can be. There's dozens of ways to invest in pieces of real estate, and the truth is you can be very passive and have almost no involvement at all to no involvement. All the way to you can control every single aspect of your real estate. And there are different investments in real estate where you can be all over that spectrum. The truth is, the most passive real estate investment that I can think of is probably a real estate investment trust. With a real estate investment trust, you basically are buying shares in a company that goes out and invests in real estate. And that's it. You put your money in, they go out and they do everything, they pay you a return. Now that return many times is a percentage based on the number of shares you have in their company. Unfortunately, what we've seen with real estate investment trusts, specifically from 2006 to now, is that they got in trouble, they surrendered what are called their redemption options, your ability to sell those shares, and then they lost value, so those shares became worse and worse and worse and worse, and the percentages that had been guaranteed were on lower value assets. They are passive assets, but if you ask anyone who's owned a real estate investment trust, a lot of them got two black eyes during the recession. If you go just to the right of that and you look at kind of syndications where people are putting together these big deals on 200 unit complexes to 550 unit complexes, those are pretty passive. You put up money once and then hopefully you never have to put up money again. And then the team that does it goes out and buys the property, goes out and rehabs the property, does a big capital expenditure on the property, and they want to come back with raising rents on the whole asset. That's kind of the idea behind a syndication. Truth is, I've seen some good syndications, I've seen some bad syndications. The strengths are you get beautiful economies of scale on that asset class. There's some really good syndication houses out there. I've met with many of their CEOs. I'm good friends with some people that run syndication companies. The bad part is if it gets into trouble, it really gets into trouble. Because if you're doing a 550 unit rehab and you stumble into a mold situation, now you might have a 300, 400 unit mold remediation. If you put up enough money to buy the property to put the 20% down and to rehab the property, but now you've got a big, hairy rehab that's having all sorts of problems, you could very easily blow through that budget. At which point you have a capital call, which is every investor's favorite thing in the world. I'm kidding, it's terrible. Because what you have to do is put up more money. And if everyone who put up money in the beginning doesn't want to keep putting up money, you can very quickly end up in a situation where you can't fund the rehab, where the rehab doesn't get done, where you blow through all of your acid tests, and when you really are going to run out of money to keep the property's mortgage paid, and then you're going to lose the property in foreclosure. Because of that, any of these completely passive investments are securities, okay? And any of these smaller passive investments, like a syndication or a tenant in common, they're going to be Reg Ds, which are non-public securities. And in order to invest in a Reg D to begin with, you have to be an accredited investor. Now that means you have to have $1 million net worth outside of your primary residence. Now they'll let, I think, 35 or 36 sophisticated investors into each deal that have a couple $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year of income for the past 2 years with the expectation of the same in the future. But the truth is, the reason that there's so much care given around Reg Ds is just because there is a chance that they're just all it's going to go under. Everyone's going to lose everything. And so they want people who invest in that style of completely passive asset to know that it could go absolutely wrong. Now the truth is, any investment can go wrong. Okay, any investment, there could be fraud in anything. However, when it's a privately held Reg D, you're never seeing those numbers, you're never seeing those returns. And so there's just more room for someone to get greedy or the books to be cooked. And I've seen that in my career, and it's devastating when it happens. Beyond that, you have tenants in common, or TICs. Now that's typically commercial, and they typically have a really stable, 4 or 6% return on them, but there's typically no appreciation. What all of these style investments have in common when you're talking about, hey, I just want to put my money in and forget about it, is exactly that. You're giving someone or some company the money, and then you're forgetting about it, and you're trusting that they know what they're doing and that their track record is good and that they're going to be able to do a good job for you and take care of your money well. And then you're praying that it goes well. And if it doesn't, you'll probably lose every penny, Because at the end of these, if they go bad, what happens is the companies that you gave your money to end up using your money to fight you in a lawsuit. And it becomes a gigantic 10-year hellfest and just never resolves, and you lose a lot of money that way. So the truth is, even though all of these assets are reasonable assets that you could invest in, they all have problems because of the passivity, because of how passive they are. Now at Bedrock, we have taken a very different approach here. We like having the owner have full control of the asset. We specialize in different assets. We're not buying mini malls and shopping malls. We're not buying these big anchor tenant leases that Amazon is kind of constantly killing. We're not doing any of that. What we specialize in is single family residential. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. 4-bedroom, 2-bath. In markets with broad, diversified job bases. We specialize in those assets. Because it's easy for people to understand what they're buying, to understand the limited complex nature of a single family residential piece of real estate, to understand, hey, it's one tenant, it's one deposit a month, it's 8 expenses a month. We want our clients to understand what they're doing, because at the end of the day, Bedrock is not absolutely passive. You own the asset. We just help you find it and we help you deal with it. But you own the asset, and at the end of the day, you hire us to do some work for you. You can fire us if we're not doing a good job. You can fire your property manager if they're not doing a good job. You've got a lot more control over the asset, and if everything goes to garbage, well, you still own the thing. And so you're able to step in and figure it out and sell it, right? Whereas with a REIT or a syndication or a tenant in common, if it goes bad, you really have no control over that asset. You don't control when it's sold, what it's rented for. You don't control anything because it's absolutely passive. What I like about Bedrock is it is as passive as possible, while you still have a say and you still have control. I love that model. That's why we've built it. That's why we've nurtured it for these years, and we love it. We love helping people build portfolios of real estate that perform, while at the same time leaving them as the primary decision maker on the asset. Now, it takes more education. And it takes some trust still, because my team still does a lot of the work. But at the end of the day, it's much harder for it to go absolutely wrong. I'm Jeremy Watson, again, the CEO of Bedrock Investment Property. There's a ton of ways to invest in real estate out there. We specialize in single family residential because it's as passive as possible, but there's a ton of good options out there. If you're looking at any of these other options, feel free to give us a call. We'll give you our opinion. This is basically it, but we'll give you our opinion. We'll help you make a good decision for you. At the end of the day, we hope you choose something that is wonderful for you. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Have a good day.